Now let's look at ministers of state. Ministers of state. We know that 3 nominations have already been made. That of the Finance Ministry, which will see Dr. Kassia Forsen at the helm of affairs. We'll see John Jinapo going to the Energy Ministry, and Dr. Dominic Akurutenga Ayene going to the Attorney General's Department and the Ministry of Justice. Those 3 names already nominated, already vetted, waiting for the report of the Appointments Committee and, of course, approval by Parliament. Subsequently, the President has mentioned or announced some 9 names for ministers of state. These 9 names will include, but not limited to, Kwame Governs Agboja, the Member of Parliament for Adaklu, who is set to take over affairs at the Ministry of Roads and Highways. Ministry of Roads and Highways, Kwame Governs Agboja, Member of Parliament for Adaklu. Now, Eric Opoku, who is also an MP, will be heading to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Eric Opoku for Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Agnes Namomo Latte is going to the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Agnes Namomo Latte, Ministry for Gender, Children and Social Protection. Abla Jifa Gomashi, and your guess is as good as mine, Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. Abla Jifa Gomashi for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. Emilia Arthur is going to the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Emilia Arthur for the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Now, quite an interesting one. George Opare Addo, Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, George Opare Addo. For the Ministry of Education, it's the former minority leader Haruna Idrusu for the Ministry of Education. You have Ahmed Ibrahim Banda MP, who's going to the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. Ahmed Ibrahim for the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. And then we have the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry will see Elizabeth Ofosu-Ejari taking over the helm of affairs. And so these are the names that have popped up so far as part of the formation of John Dramani Mahama's government. And so far, if we add the 9 to the existing 3 Minister of State nominees, then we have 12 out of the promised 60. And then, of course, for the regional ministers, we have 13 so far, with 3 more to go. Fred Tete Jabano is the head of current affairs production here at Channel 1 TV and City FM, and he is in studio with me to take a look at the nominations by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Fred, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nana.
I don't know where you want to start from. I have seen some interesting names going to some very interesting ministries. And then also, it's important to put out there that we see a realignment of some ministries, and some of them having been scrapped. And so, I mean, the names that have popped up and the places they are going, quite interesting. I don't know where you want to start from, although I have my own suspicion about where you want to take it back. So let me give you the opportunity.
I will surprise you.
Please do.
Surprise you.
Please do.
Very exciting names which have been put out by the president. But I'll start with the regional ministers.
Okay.
Let's start with Joseph Nelson. Joseph Nelson for the Western region. The president keeps on going on with the tradition he started with some fear this week by announcing party executives to take up the position of regional executives. So, regional minister. So you have Joseph Nelson, who is the current Western Regional Secretary of the NDC. He has been made the regional minister for Western region. Don't forget that previously, the first list we came, you had a number of secretaries being made. I
think out of the 10, there were only 2 chairmen.
There were 2 chairmen, and a women's organizer, a deputy women's organizer, and the rest were
secretaries at
regional
the regional level.
The central region, Eduama Ekopin Otri, he is a former MP for Gumwa East. He's a former MP for Gumwa East. He is the current vice chairman of the NDC.
Okay.
In the central region. So you recall the case between the regional chairman and the suspension of the then parliamentary candidate for Asin Central.
Yes.
The party suspended the regional chairman for about a month or two. The deputy, which is Eduama Ekopin Inotri, was asked to act in that particular position. So he acted as vice chairman at the time. So now he's been given the position of regional chairman. So he has a background of going to parliament as a member of parliament and also being a vice chairman of the party. Then we have Wilbert Petty Brintum. Wilbert Petty Brintum has been within the CSO space. He's been within the CSO space, especially within the mining space. At a point, he used to be manager in charge of gold in one of these CSOs who have been operating within the Western region and then Western North region. So for him, that's his background. I'm not really sure of his connection to the NDC and what positions he's held within the NDC. But what I can tell about Wilbert Petty Brintum is the fact that he has been within the CSO space. So this is the regional ministers list we have. So right now we have 13 announced regional ministers, 13 out of 16. Yeah. And out of the 13, we have the NDC and President Mahama seem to be going with the appointment of mostly party executives in this particular appointment of regional ministers. Now let's come to the ministers of state.
Before we go there, Wilbert Petty Brintum, we are being told, is a mining consultant.
A mining consultant.
And actually picked forms to contest the primaries in the Aweng constituency on the ticket of the NDC.
Yes. But as I said, he's also worked within the civil society space for a number of years and quite popular within the mining areas in terms of advocacy for civil society organizations. We go to the ministers of state, quite a number, quite interesting names to interesting places. The most surprising, I must say, not surprising because the person is a minister, but the portfolio he has been given is the Minister of Education designate, Haruna Idrisu. You know, since President Mahama took office, I mean, speculations have been rife about the fact that Mr. Haruna Idrisu would be going to the Defense Ministry to take over that particular position. It's come as a surprise to many people that he's been given the Ministry of Education. Let's look at Haruna Idrisu and the Ministry of Education. You recall this cost-sharing issue in the universities years back. At the time, Haruna Idrisu was NUC's president.
Right.
He was the one who went into a meeting to agree on behalf of the students for cost sharing between government and students. This particular agreement, a lot of students did not take lightly to it.
Right.
There was strong opposition. He has done so many things. Haruna has held positions of trade minister, employment. Now he's come to education. Right. One of the biggest challenges within the education space is the free SHS.
Yeah.
Is the free SHS. Issues of review, issues of improved feeding to the students or students within the secondary schools or senior high schools. And his position initially years ago on cost sharing. This is going to be quite interesting for Haruna being education minister.
Right.
What his position is going to be going forward as there are conversations of the review of the free SHS. Is he going to go for a free, as it is now, fully free, or he's going to push for some sort of cost sharing based on his history as a leader of the student front. That's one ministry we should look out for, the Ministry of Education and Haruna Idrisu. The next ministry...
We know that John Mahama has said that upon nomination to the Education Ministry, he will hold a stakeholders dialogue for a reform or a review of Ghana's education sector.
Yes.
So that should be one of the
his
major tasks.
So that is going to be one of his major tasks. And from what I'm hearing, he'll be working directly with the office of the vice president.
Right.
We have a vice president who has education at heart.
Yeah.
She has been a vice chancellor, a minister of education. And we are told that she's going to lead a charge with for the education reforms as the NDC has proposed. Right. So he's going to work very closely with the office of the vice president. Right.
The presidency, when they make their releases, they give short profiles of the various nominees. So let's look at that of Haruna Idrisu, since you've just spoken about him. According to the communique from the presidency signed by Felix Kwachiofosu, acting spokesperson to the president, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu is a politician, a lawyer, business magnate, and leader with extensive experience in Ghana's parliament. He has held roles ranging from the deputy ranking member to majority and minority leader in various parliaments under the Fourth Republic. He has also served as Minister for Employment and Labour Relations and Minister for Communications. The Honourable Idrisu has a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Ghana and also a barrister at law and member of the Ghana Bar Association since 2002. So that's it for Haruna Idrisu. We were not too certain about Wilbert Petty-Brentum.
Yes.
And so let's just take a quick glance at who he is, as published by the Presidency Communications Department. Mr. Wilbert Petty-Brentum is a politician, chartered accountant, local government professional, and mining expert with decades of experience. He has held technical, managerial, and regulatory roles in the mining industry and has also served as an assembly member in the Draboso electoral area in the Draboso district. Now, as I also indicated earlier, he had wanted to contest the primaries of even, I think, 2020 in the Awin constituency, but there was a petition against him. A petition was brought against him by a group known as Concerned Good Standing Members of the NDC in the Awin constituency, where they raised a number of issues challenging the eligibility of Mr. Wilbert Petty-Brentum to contest in the parliamentary primaries of Awin constituency, and of course a subsequent disqualification from the contest as a parliamentary candidate. So I mean, obviously there are some ties
to the NDC.
To the NDC.
It's great to know that he has some local governance or government background.
Exactly.
You know, once you're a regional minister, one of your duties is also to supervise the district and municipal assemblies and their work. So we have been advocating for the strengthening of the assemblies to get them to function properly. So once you have somebody who has a background from that particular industry, it may help. And you see, from where he's coming from, he is a mining expert. He's worked within the mining space for years. You look at where his area or his region, the Western North region. The Western North region is one area where there's a lot of mining. The Western North area is one area where we find a lot of galamsey activities taking place within that particular place. So I think his task there has been clearly spelled out from his mining background and his local governance background. He is expected to make make a difference.
Exactly.
Not just go sit there as a regional minister and do nothing. We hope that with this particular background he has, when he's confirmed and sworn in as minister, he will do something to transform the Western North region.
Indeed. All right. Who are we going to next? Who
The
would you
next,
want to
the
look
next,
at
the next portfolio is the local government portfolio.
Ahmed Ibrahim.
Ahmed Ibrahim, as we know, is now the majority deputy whip.
Yes.
In Parliament for the majority.
Yes.
He was initially deputy minority whip. He has been very vocal whilst in the opposition on a lot of government issues. He's made his position very clear. He is a member of Parliament from the Ahafo or Bono regions. He's been a
lone ranger for a long while.
He's been a lone ranger for a very long time. You would recall that Ahmed, during the registration for the voters register in 2020, there were a lot of issues within his constituency where we are told that they were bringing foreigners to vote. They objected to it. There were objections for on people registering and everything. He was very vocal. He came back, won that particular seat in 2020. He was made deputy minority whip, did a very good job. He won again in 2024, and he's been made local government minister. He's been a long-standing member of the NDC and the minority or the NDC in Parliament. You look at his CV. We are told that he has an MBA in finance. He also studies political science and philosophy from the University of Ghana. He is a CEO of Flamingo Publications. He has participated in international workshops on parliamentary governance and telecommunications. Given the job of a local government minister, that's a huge job, a very big job. I think right now the local government minister or minister is one of the most important ministers in the Mahama government because of the fact that, you see, development is not a central thing. The development is to be decentralized, and it's being the campaign promise of the president to ensure that the various districts and municipalities have their fair share of development. How is he going to coordinate all these MMDCs who will be appointed? You know, even though we always say that these people have are supervised by the regional ministers, they ultimately report to the local government ministry, and the head of the local government ministry, being the minister, Ahmed Ibrahim, has been nominated to take charge of this ministry. That's a very powerful ministry.
It is, indeed.
How he's going to coordinate these particular MMDCs is going to be one we are all going to look out for. We will be looking out for his agenda. Yes, even though the party has an agenda for local governance, he as a person, what is his personal agenda for these for local governance?
And even more so now that the local government ministry seems to have seen some realignment. Now chieftaincy and religious affairs is going under the local government ministry. And we've seen and heard the importance the president attaches to chieftaincy issues and by extension resolutions to chieftaincy conflicts in the country. So it will be important to see what vision Ahmed Ibrahim has for the ministry, especially now that the chieftaincy and religious affairs sector has also been inculcated into the local government ministry. Already the local government ministry on its own is not it's a huge task on its own. And now that we've added chieftaincy and religious affairs to it, we are also hearing that there will be sanitation components as part of the local government ministry. So that's quite a huge
task for him. You know, Nana, with chieftaincy being added to local government, I think that maybe it is one of the best decisions we could ever take, because, you know, chieftaincy itself is a local issue. It's dealing with the people locally. And when you look at the structure of our local governance, you cannot take away the chiefs, who tend to be the traditional leaders within the local areas. So once it's been added there, you now need to find a way of engaging the chiefs and getting them to be part of development. Because, you know, when we've seen a number of cases where chiefs have gotten up or have risen to champion developmental projects. Yeah. And anytime they do that, a lot of times it works. Look at the issue of Galamsey. Yeah. You saw chiefs getting up to speak. Chiefs saying, objecting to some of the things and actions which were being taken. So now that you've added chieftaincy to local government, and you have a local government minister, what his task is now to be able to liaise, one, with the MMDCs, liaise with the chiefs, who are all part of the developmental structure at the local level, to develop their various towns and municipalities and districts. So for me, it is his tax. I think, as I said, he's one of the most important ministers under the Mahama administration, or the most important ministers we think should be given the opportunity and the free hand to work and work well. Because look, when you put the finance ministry aside, you put the energy ministry aside, all other developments come from within, from the lower levels, from the lower levels, which is our local areas. If you want to engage in trade, and you are going to even get a farm produce, it's from the local level. You understand? Interior security is local. So for me, Ahmed Ibrahim has been given a very huge task. He needs to prove to us that he is capable of doing the job. And for him, I will be looking out for his vetting. I hope that his vetting is not going to be one of those where they say, oh, you're a leader, so let us just ask one or two questions for you to pass.
That unspoken rule.
That unspoken rule. The local government ministry, very important. If we are to have any sort of change in our development, it's going to start from the local government ministry. He needs to tell us exactly what he's going to do, what his plans are, how he's going to implement the NDC and President John Mahama's plan within the local level to ensure that there's development. One of the challenges is the payment of the district assembly common funds. For a long time, you realize that the assemblies are starved of funds. So you go 2 years arrears, 3 years arrears, and so a lot of issues within the district assembly space. Ahmed Ibrahim, given the space, should be able to solve that problem. He should be able to tell us what measures he's going to put in place to ensure a timely release of these funds to the local level, and how he's going to empower the local assemblies and municipal assemblies to be able to also raise funds through IGFs, through property rates, and all those things to be able to develop our towns and cities. So it will
be interesting to hear what his policy or ideology is on the election of MMDCs, one, and of course the election of MMDCs on partisan basis. And I'm sure this will be one of the issues that will come up during his vetting.
Exactly. That's one thing we would also look out for. You know, the NDC as a party 4 or 8 years ago opposed the election of assembly members on partisan basis.
Right.
The MPP was pushing for the partisan basis. So you contest on the party ticket and you are voted for. The NDC said no. We don't think that it is right to be voted for on partisan basis. Don't forget, during the Constitutional Review Committee's work, in the white paper, if I'm not mistaken, the plan of the NDC government then was to nominate 5 people for the people within the various assemblies and districts to vote.
Right.
We would, when he comes, now we need to question him. What is the way forward with that? Do they still believe in that agenda? Do they still believe, do they even still believe in the election of MMDCs? If they believe in the election of MMDCs, in what form is it going to take? Is it going to be a partisan form or is it going to be non-partisan like we do for the assembly members? These are some of the things, rightly so, we'll be looking out for him to give us answers. What his personal thoughts are, and how he's going to push that agenda to ensure that we have that kind of development and that kind of free will as people to choose who the kinds of people who lead us in our various municipalities and districts. So that's one of the things we would look out for when he comes in to be vetted by Parliament.
His vetting should be interesting. I mean, he has been an MP for quite a while. Actually started from Time.
Time, yes.
Yes, Time, before moving in to represent the good people of Banda. He has been at the helm of leadership in the House, one time on the majority side, another time on the minority side. And so we wait to see. There will be questions on governance itself at the local level. There will be questions on and possibly under religious affairs. Maybe someone will be interested in bringing up the LGBTQ bill, anti-LGBTQ bill, and what the president has been saying on it, to pick his thoughts on that as well. Interesting
and
to see.
And the resolution of the various chieftaincy disputes across the country.
Yeah.
As you said, it's one of the things that President Mahama has decided to find some solutions to. And he started by going to Boko to try and find a way of resolving the Boko conflict. Now that he's been given that responsibility, how is he going to carry out that responsibility? How is he going to ensure that we have less chieftaincy disputes across the country? What is the roadmap for resolving most of these chieftaincy issues? There are things that we'll be looking out for Ahmed Ibrahim to tell us what he intends to do.
Very well. Let's look at the Honorable Kwame Governs Abuja. He's going to roads and highways. Kwame Abuja is a Ghanaian architect and politician with extensive experience in architectural design and project management, a chartered architect who earned his qualification from the KNUST, Westminster University, East London University. He is as a principal consultant at K Plus Partners Limited, has managed major projects in healthcare, education, and residential development across Ghana and the UK. Since 2013, has been a member of Parliament for Adaklu, rising through parliamentary ranks as Deputy Ranking Member, Minority Chief Whip, and now Majority Chief Whip of the 9th Parliament. He is a member of the Royal Institute of British Architects and the Ghana Institute of Architects. The Honourable Kwame Governs Abuja. Very outspoken, very vociferous. One of the, if you ask me, most popular MPs now in Parliament. And so, I mean, but going to roads and highways.
It comes as no surprise. You know, before he was made the chief whip for the minority and now majority, you know, he was then the minority ranking for roads. And he was very vocal on issues on roads and transport. So it comes to me as no surprise. Anytime there were issues with roads, you would hear Governs Kwame Abuja speaking. Now he's been given the task to oversee that particular ministry and drive the agenda of the president in that particular ministry. The roads ministry is one of the biggest ministries we have. Nana, there's no area in this country where there are no roads issues. Everywhere in this country, you find
every single
issues with roads, potholes, roads which have not been constructed, roads which have been constructed and gone bad, roads which have been constructed and abandoned. There are a lot of issues with roads in this country. Don't forget, the president describes himself as one who does a lot of projects, infrastructure projects. And one of the biggest infrastructure projects you can ever do as president will be your roads, the road sector. And he's been given the mandate to lead this particular sector. One of his first tasks, I think, as minister, is how they are going to come up with a plan to reintroduce the tolls at the road tolls.
So called the finance minister designate mentioned
it, and it's one of how they are going to come out with a good plan to reintroduce the tolls. Is he going to lead a charge to reintroduce tolls and take tolls manually like we used to take it on roads which were causing a lot of traffic? Or we are going to go the electronic system. even with the electronic system, how are we going to go about it? Is it going to be a pay as you go, or is it going to be you being charged when you are going to pay your renew your driver's license or renew your roadworthy certificates and everything? How are they going to go about it? This would be one of the challenges he's supposed to deal with as road minister. Secondly, the issue of payment of contractors.
Yeah.
The issues of payment of contractors. You know, over the last 8 years, there was so much concern about the payment of contractors. You had contractors almost every year waiting for the budget to see how much money has been allocated for payment. It's got roads stalled. People have done shoddy jobs because of the payment, a lack of payment. So how is he going to deal with the payment of contractors? You know, there's a huge debt when it comes to the payment of contractors within the road sector. Yeah. How are they going to resolve this particular issue? How are they going to ensure that we reduce the debt and eventually clear the debt in the road sector? This is another area we'll be looking out for to hear answers from him. What he's going to do as the lead in this particular area. On now the building of new roads, are they going to hold on to building new roads or constructing new roads to complete the already ongoing roads which have not been completed? Because you see, as we speak, there are so many ongoing roads being constructed across the country.
Huge cost burdens.
Huge cost burdens. Some of them started during their tenure 8 years ago or 16 years ago. Some of them have been started under the tenure of the Akufo-Addo administration. Now you have John Mahama's administration. How are you going to deal with that? Are you going to start your own road project? Even with your own road projects, how are you going to fund it? Now we find ourselves within this whole IMF program. We are not getting enough money from external creditors because of our debts and everything. All these things, especially the construction of roads, need money. How are you going to fund them? Are you going to get external people? Are you going to go into private partnerships? Is government going to fund it by itself? If government is going to fund it by itself, how is government going to fund it? Is it through our road tolls, which are going to they claim they would reintroduce? If that is it, he needs to make it clear to the people of Ghana what the agenda of the NDC is and how he, as a leader of the road sector, is going to execute this agenda. So yes, for Gavin Kwame Agboja, he's spoken so much in opposition. He's been very vocal in the way the road sector has been run in the last 8 years. Now he's been given the mandate to lead this particular sector. He needs to tell us what different things he's going to do. He needs to prove to us that he's really capable of doing the job. In terms of qualifications, he's well qualified to do the job. But you see, we don't only judge you based on your qualifications and based on what you have said in the past. You know, when you sit behind and you have to criticize, it's different from now being made the one in charge to run the place. So there are two different things. So now we are going to look out for what you have said in the past and how you are going to implement some of the suggestions you made in the past now that you are the one in charge. What different things are you going to do in terms of even how the whole road architecture in terms of the structure is? You know, what you're going to do, there's this, when you go, there's the highways, there's the urban roads. We have now been made together, they have been put together into the National Roads Authority. What is going to be the mandate of the Roads Authority? What's going to be the role of the Roads Authority under this particular administration? So these are things we are all going to look out for, and especially at his vetting, some of the answers you'll be given to some of these concerns and questions we have.
Fred, let's look at Eric Opoku. Eric Opoku is a member of parliament at Sunafo South. He is heading to the Ministry for Food and Agriculture. He is going into the ministry at a point where the previous government was running some flagship programs like the Planting for Food and Jobs. The Akufo-Addo administration left when it was in its second phase. It will be interesting to know what his own take on this is. But he's been speaking on a number of issues within the agric sector over the past few years. Eric Opoku is a seasoned politician with expertise in law, agriculture, and leadership. With over 12 years of parliamentary experience, he has risen from the backbenches to become the ranking member on the Food, Agriculture, and Cocoa Affairs Committee. He holds a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Law from KNUST and LLM distinction in International Business Law from the University of Essex, UK. He has also earned certifications in International Legislative Drafting and Fisheries Management from the United States. So yes, until the dissolution of the 8th Parliament, he was ranking member for Agriculture. And of course, we know what his stance has been on some of the policies run by the previous administration. So it will be interesting to know that now that he is coming to take over, what his own policies are. I would like to hear what he says to the Appointments Committee when asked about the Planting for Food and Jobs program. It would be interesting to know his policies for cutting post-harvest losses. Also quite interesting to know what he plans for the cocoa sector, which has of course been diminishing in recent times. So, I mean, quite a lot on his table, if you ask me.
Exactly. Not a new face to within the agric sector.
Yeah.
He's been a very vocal person, as you said. He has championed the cause of cocoa farmers whilst in the minority. In fact, at a point when you mention agric within the NDC, you mentioned Eric Opoku. And I mean, Eric Opoku is one of the people when you speak to, right, to give you or break down issues within the agric sector. He's able to do it so well, perfectly. He breaks it down to the lowest level for you to understand. He's not so technical about his explanations when it comes to the agric sector and the issues of cocoa and all these things. He's been very vocal. He knows his stuff. He understands the area very well. He understands what it takes to run the place or to change the face of agriculture, at least per the conversations we have had, the interviews we have had. But as I always say, sitting behind and always giving suggestions and criticizing is different from really coming there to handle the sector as a leader or as a minister. One of the areas he needs to tackle and he needs to tell us the way forward, what the way forward would be, is the area of the cocoa sector.
Exactly.
As we speak now, we are told that countries which we never knew were growing cocoa are now growing cocoa to extent that we are likely to lose
bypassing us,
likely to lose our position as the second largest cocoa growing country in the world. There's been issues of the amount of money being paid per bag to cocoa farmers. There's been issues of smuggling of cocoa. How is he going to deal with all these? How is he going to deal with the distribution of fertilizers? You know, one of the biggest challenges within the cocoa sector is how fertilizers are distributed. And even outside the cocoa sector, even within the general agricultural space, how we how government distributes the fertilizers,
and whether we maintain the subsidies or not.
The issues of subsidies, whether we are going to maintain the subsidies.
The issue of smuggling,
how we are going to deal with all these. And these are things the minister designate would need to come and explain what the plan is. You see, as a country, we always say that about 70% of our workforce fall within the agric sector. How are we going to better the lives of our farmers? How are we going to even improve upon our farming?
Recently, there was a drought. We understand that food imported as a relief for drought-affected farmers has been redirected to go to senior high schools.
The Ministerial of Education and everything.
He has a lot.
He has a lot to do. I mean, we have been told that we are not even producing enough. To feed ourselves. How is it going to address the issue of producing enough to feed ourselves?
And of course, our storage. And all that.
But then if you don't even produce, how do you even store? If you don't produce, how do you store?
Right.
So now you need to tackle the production of food in this country. Already we are told that one of the things which gets our forex to always, or our CD to always depreciate and the inflation is the importation of food. What new things are you going to do to ensure that we are now growing food for ourselves? We are now self-reliant, where we don't need to import a lot into the country. What are the measures you are going to put in place? See, some of these things are the things we'll be looking out for. The kind of mechanization you are going to introduce into agriculture. You know, when you go, sometimes when you drive across the country, you still see how our farmers go about farming. You ask yourself that, are we in 2025 or we are still living in the 80s and the 70s? It doesn't look like there's been any improvement in terms of technology, even within the agricultural space. How are we going to do that? What is the plan to transform the way we practice agriculture here? It comes to, like you said, now that food is, you get a lot of food, the silos. And what is the plan for it? We are told that the previous government had to build storage places. What have become of these storage places? How are we going to use them? How are we going to deploy them? Irrigation. What is the plan for irrigation? We are told of dams which are to be constructed and the rest. They need to come and first update us on the where these dams have got into, the construction of these dams have got into. What is the plan for the continuation of the construction of these dams if they have not been completed? What other new measures they are going to even introduce within the irrigation sector? How are we going to get our farmers to be now irrigating rather than waiting for rain? For example, you talk about the droughts last year. How do we ensure that we don't get to the point we got to last year because we could not control the rain and the rain did not come? These are some of the things. These are some of the things he needs to come and explain and give us the way forward, the plan, and how they intend to implement the plan to benefit all of us.
We understand he actually, if you like, drafted the NDC's agri sector manifesto.
He was part of the committee which did that. He was the chairman of that committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Great. But one important thing I would like to hear, if he's to make it to the vetting, will be the impact of illegal mining on agriculture in this country. The threats are imminent. We've heard international organizations say that our cocoa, for instance, is being poisoned by activities of illegal mining. So it will be important to see how he hopes to deal with this, whether it's going to be an interministerial partnership, collaboration. I mean, we would need to hear something from him.
And even farmers now selling their farmlands
to illegal miners,
and all that, just to make money.
It'll be quite interesting.
He needs, yes, as you say, he needs to tell us. You know, if it comes to issues of illegal mining, I don't think that it is going to be only his job to be able to deal with it when it even comes to the agri sector. He needs to work with other ministries. How he's going to work with the Minister of Lands and Forestry,
Natural Resources,
and Natural Resources. How he's going to deal with the local government minister in dealing with these issues. So yes, we'll be looking forward for him to tell us. I mean, for him, as I say, he may come before the parliamentary committee for appointments and will be brilliant. But you see, it's not just about the talk.
Exactly.
It's not just about the talk.
We need you to walk.
For me, I believe that Eric Opoku would go before that committee and wow a lot of people. But then it's not just about the talk. whether he will be able to now implement the things he says needs to be done to change the
With
sector.
the application of the knowledge.
Exactly. And I think that's what, a lot of times, that's what we face as a country.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people who talk and can talk very well.
Yeah.
And give you all the solutions
even
you
on
want.
paper, we have some fine policies.
Exactly.
But the implementation
when it comes
thereof.
to the implementation, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
Are you capable of doing it? These are some of the things we'll be looking out for.
We know the president is heavy on gender and of course female inclusion. I look at this list and so far I see 1, 2, 3, 4 female names out of the 9 for ministers of state. And so let's move to Agnes Namumo Late, who is heading to the Gender, Children and Social Protection Ministry. Let's do a quick brief about her and then we can look at what she's bringing to the ministry. Agnes Namumo Late, a seasoned legislator and development expert with over 20 years of experience managing projects in governance, health, education, and women's rights. As the Member of Parliament for Krowo constituency, she serves on key parliamentary committees, shaping national policy and advancing gender and community-focused initiatives. With a PhD in African Studies, Dr. Late has held leadership roles such as General Secretary of the National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana, NALAG, and Executive Director of the Global Initiative on Rights and Development, demonstrating expertise in leadership, advocacy, and grassroots empowerment. Dr. Agnes Namumo Late, Honorable, a member herself of the Appointments Committee.
Exactly.
She will be facing her colleagues pretty soon.
She entered Parliament, I think, in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, or 2020, for the Coral constituency.
Yes.
She, before then, had been within the developmental space. She had done a lot of work with women empowerment. I recall that in her campaign, her first campaign to enter Parliament, one of the things she used to do within the Coral constituency, which is the Nungwa areas, was to empower women to be able to take care of themselves. So she held a lot of workshops, she held a lot of training for women within the constituency. Agnes Namumo Late has been also very vocal on the gender space in Parliament. I think she was part of the committee, the gender committee in Parliament. She is coming in to this space as a relatively new person, has not held any ministerial position before, any deputy ministerial position before. She's coming straight into this position as a legislator who has spent a lot of her years within the developmental area. The gender ministry is one ministry which a lot of times people do not put a lot of importance to, but it's very important. If we look at our last budget, I think that is one of the ministries which has received the most donor funding. I think that, yes, one of the ministries which has gotten a lot of donor funding because of the nature of their work.
Exactly.
You see, a lot of times when we mention gender ministry, the first thing we think about is women empowerment. But the gender ministry goes beyond women empowerment. It goes beyond women empowerment. It looks at even the developing children and protecting the rights of children. It's when we talk about gender, a lot of the times we forget to even talk about the men. We are not seen as a very important part of this whole gender conversation. But you see, it's a very huge ministry in terms of development. How you're going to develop the people, men, women, children. There's the issue of the LGBTQ rights and the anti-gay bill. That is a ministry which needs to drive really what it is, protecting the rights of people, whilst protecting the rights of people, and also ensuring that our culture is not being destroyed. Our children are not being fed with things which we do not accept as a people. You get it. In the same vein, also ensuring that people who find themselves in a particular group of people are not marginalized, are not beaten, are not thrown out because of where they belong to and what they believe in.
Right.
So for me, I think that Namomo's appointment as gender ministry, though surprising, because people had thought that former President Mahama was going to bring back Madame Oyelita, who was the who spent 8 years or 4 years. I think 4 years. She spent 4 years within the gender space when he was in power. But I think that he's looking at a new direction for the ministry. This is the ministry which controls the LEAP budget.
Yeah.
How are you going to ensure that the right people are getting what they are supposed to get? How are you going to even expand this whole LEAP project to ensure that a lot more people who deserve to be benefiting from these monies would benefit from them? So yes, now Momo's job has been cut out for her. We hope that she is able to perform this job and perform it creditably. This area is also would have you, what I'll be looking out for is how she's able to deal with the politics within this area. You see, there's so much politics within this area because of the payment of LEAP. Your party members are always looking out for you because this is a ministry where you're going to distribute or give out the money for LEAP. How is this money going to be given out? Is it going to be given out on partisan basis? If it's not going to be given out on partisan basis, how are you going to work with your party members to let them understand that this is a national thing? This is not a partisan thing. In fact, this LEAP project we've been engaged in a long time. It's a World Bank project. In fact, it's largely funded by donors. Largely funded by donors. How you are going to ensure that your party people do not take over, or do not think that they have the first right to benefit from it? These are all things she needs to be looking out for, and she needs.
And with social protection, of course, under her ministry, there's a lot to deal with issues of witchcraft allegations, issues of domestic violence. I mean, a lot.
The street children,
the street children, exactly.
Street children.
Streetism in the country, and of course,
our social welfare system.
Our
social welfare system.
Yes, indeed.
She needs to tell us really, especially with the social welfare system.
You should do a proper assessment of
what is the state of our social welfare in this country. Because it seems to be non-existent.
I don't know.
What is the state of the social welfare system in this country? What we are going to do to transform the social welfare system in this country? How we are going to raise funds to ensure that the social welfare authority is funded properly to be able to take care of the day-to-day running and the people who they are supposed to take care of. These are some of the things she needs to come and explain to us, and also need when she's given to the nod to become minister to implement.
Right. Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare, heading to the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry. So who is Madam or the Honorable Elizabeth Ofosu-Adjare? She's a lawyer, international relations expert, a business executive and politician with 2 decades of experience in legal practice and advocacy. She has served at the strategic level on several boards, driving performance in multi-million-dollar companies. As Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, she led initiatives to promote Ghana as a prime tourism destination and fostered collaborations with the creative arts industry. Fred, I mean, she has served as a minister before, although in a different ministry. This time she is moving to an entirely new ministry, which will be the Ministry for Trade, Ministry of Trade. It's a realigned, if you ask me, realigned Ministry of Trade, agribusiness and industry. We have always had the trade and industry ministry, but now agribusiness has been added to it, and it tells you the president's vision or focus on creating an export-driven economy more than an import-driven. Because I mean, we've heard from explanations on the proposed 24-hour economy that it will be mostly hinged on agribusiness, and so
yes.
which
falls directly under her ministry.
Her ministry, and so I mean, from navigating her way from culture, tourism, and creative arts to trade, agribusiness, and industry. Quite an interesting one.
Yes, quite an interesting one. She has been within the NDC for quite a while. She's been a minister before, so being made a minister again comes as nothing new to her.
Right.
What is actually new is the portfolio she's been given, a very important portfolio within government, the trade ministry. As you said, it is every government's intention and plan to ensure that we build local industries here. We get a strong local industry in the various sectors here. And one of the duties as a trade minister is to be able to get these industries running. How you are able to even draw more people from outside to come and build and start companies here. Don't forget that we have the 1D, 1F.
Yes.
The one district, one factory, which was aimed to grow the Ghanaian economy, to create jobs, to be able to produce things for us to use here and export them. How is she going to tackle this? Are we going to even maintain this whole 1D, 1F project, or there's going to be an introduction of something else? What is the plan for growing our local industries, our local companies? What's the plan for empowering our companies? You know, one of the things which the trade ministry has been championing in the last administration was about exemptions, tax exemptions and the rest. Their aim was, according to them, was to be able to bring in more companies into the country to start business here. It was to also ensure that their companies grow in size and in magnitude. The opposition opposed some of these tax exemptions, believing with the explanation that they felt that it was a wrong move and was not being targeted at the right companies. What is the strategy of the NDC? What is the plan of the NDC? How are you going to go ahead with tax exemptions? Are you even going to go ahead? You know, I always say that.
We actually saw the finance minister designate maintain his stance against some of these tax exemptions.
He asked for a bill. If we want, let's make a law to run how exemptions are given. And with these laws, if anything the finance minister designate said is going to go by, then she needs to work closely with the finance minister on how they are going to deal with these issues of tax exemption, how they are going to ensure that you are given some incentives and other things to local businesses and other businesses coming in to develop and start and create jobs for people. So the trade ministry, very important. We've seen people like Alan Tremantin, we've seen people like Katie Hammond, we've seen Haruna Idrisu, we've seen the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Anatete, Akwaspio Gabra, all running this ministry. She is coming in as a new person in this ministry. What is she going to do? What's the impact she's going to have on the trade ministry? How are their policies going to affect the creation of jobs? How is it going to tie into the 24-hour economy? What kind of businesses they are looking at?
Especially
they are going to look at to bring into this country within the agric space. You understand? So yes, this is a very difficult job. This is one of the difficult jobs you could have in government, and I don't envy her.
Yeah.
But we hope that she would be able to make a difference. She'll be able to make a difference. You see, in all these, when people are appointed to such positions, it's not just about being appointed as a minister. It's not just about the fame.
Yeah.
It is about what you can do and what you are going to do to change the place you have been brought. People have come before you. Yes, they have all contributed in one way or the other, but what are you going to do to outperform them? That is what we are looking out for Madame Ejari as she's heading to the ministry. We once again, I say, the Parliamentary Vetting Committee, the Appointment Committee, should really ask key questions about the workings of the ministry. And let her give us a vision, and whether you understand where you are going very well. Two, what is your vision? And how you intend to implement that vision.
Because I'm actually looking forward to what policy brief she has on the agribusiness component of the ministry, and what's her own vision she has coming into the ministry, and whether the 1D, 1F of the agric ministry will play any role in the agribusiness component of the trade ministry. It will be quite interesting to know what her response will be to some of these issues. But let's move on to someone who she's worked with before at the tourism ministry, Abla Jifa Gomashi. Mama V. She has also been a deputy minister before. She's MP, and of course we know her ties with the party. We know her, of course, in our entertainment industry, having graced our screens for the longest of periods, and of course the quality she's brought to it, the level of class she's brought to it. Having served before as deputy minister, her elevation to minister, not too surprising.
Not too surprising, not too surprising. Even within the time she was in opposition, she was very vocal in terms of tourism and creative arts. So it didn't come to me as a surprise.
And she's heavy on culture too. I think
she's really, really heavy.
Queen or
one of those traditional leaders.
Yeah, she holds a title, one of those traditional titles.
She has been in the space for a very long time, the creative industry space for a very long time. She has been a champion of local tourism for a very long time. So it comes to me as no surprise that she's been made the substantive minister for tourism. Now, the Ministry of Tourism, a lot of the times when you talk about tourism, we don't really take the whole issue of tourism seriously. The tourism sector is one sector, if we should take very seriously, would create a lot of jobs, would change our economy.
Because the revenue that can be generated in the tourism sector alone
is huge,
enormous.
Huge. And you see, you talk about the tourism sector, a lot of people just think, going to visit sites. Going to see.
It's an entire chain.
It's an entire chain. You have the hoteliers, you have the traders, you have the transporters, you have
the restaurants, the service providers along the chain.
The economy is huge. The economy is huge. It's my hope that we are not going to take the tourism ministry like we've treated it over the last 20 years of our lives as a country. It's my hope that Abla Jifa Gomashi, someone who has been in this space for a very long time, who understands the space better than a lot of people, would actually drive change in this particular sector. Look, let's take, for example, the year of return. And making Ghana a holiday destination during the Christmas in the last regime.
The dirty December.
The dirty December. And see the kind of profit we made, the kind of money we made as a country. You look at areas, for example, like Takrady, the Anchors.
Yes.
The 25th December,
masquerades
where you have the masquerades coming to display.
Yeah.
How are we going to transform some of these things to make them annual, to make them attractive? How are we going to sell them out to be able to change the lives of the people over there through tourism?
Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
How are we going to get our creatives to be more empowered? How are we going to get our creatives? How are we going to fund the creative arts part space of our economy? Because you see, you go to other countries like Nigeria, and you look at the creative space and the kind of income they are bringing to the country, the kind of jobs they are creating for the people of Nigeria. You ask yourself, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? How are we going to fund it? How are we going to ensure that we are moving our tourism from just sightseeing to a sector which is going to drive in a lot of money for government, both locally and from outside? These are things that she needs to take a look at. These are things that she needs to sit with the government, sit with the president, and find ways of ensuring that our tourism sector, our local, our creative arts space,
because our
thrive.
culture. We need to find a way to commercialize our culture. And if you ask me, there's this thing I call festival tourism. To package our various festivals in a way that, one, we can promote domestic tourism through it, as well as international tourism through our festivals in a way that we can generate actual revenue. And of course, when we're talking about festival tourism, we're looking at the festival itself and the actors therein. And then you're looking at the various service providers along the chain in making sure that the festival is successful.
The service providers.
The service providers
like
there. You understand? And of course, the display of culture there, how we're able to package the cultural aspect of the festival to sell it both domestically and internationally. One other thing also regarding the creative arts space that I would want to hear what her response will be to it if she appears before the appointments committee, will be driving corporate Ghana to invest in our creative arts space. Because if you ask the creatives, that is one of the biggest challenges they are facing, to get the corporate world to invest in their space. Because see, the creatives out there are churning out some of the most amazing materials you could ever think of. But the sponsorship, the kind of investment needed to drive same is what is missing. And then, of course, streamlining the sector to ensure the payment of their royalties, the protection of their rights, and all that. So it will be, I mean, she has been a sector player for over the years. She has actually championed the promotion of culture through theater over the years. So, I mean, it will be quite interesting to hear some of the things that she will say when she appears before the appointments committee.
Exactly.
All right, let's do another female. Emilia Arthur. She heads to the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. Emilia Arthur. Let me bring her brief bio up real quick. Miss Emilia Arthur is a development specialist with expertise in local governance, natural resource management, and gender inclusion. She's a former presidential staffer, deputy regional minister, district chief executive. She has led policy alignment, capacity building, and participatory planning initiatives. Now, as a consultant, she has worked with organizations such as USAID and IUCN, designing advocacy strategies and facilitating leadership training across Africa with academic credentials from Yale University, GIMPA. Madam Arthur integrates strategic planning with inclusive development to drive sustainable change. And this is what she is bringing to the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture, taking over from another woman, Mavis Hawakumse.
Emilia Arthur is the MP for Shama, current MP for Shama, fishing community. She's from the Western region, as you said. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that someone like that has been chosen to head the fisheries ministry. You know, during the campaign of 2024, you saw President John Dramani Mahama visiting almost all the fishing communities across the country, making them a promise of transforming their lives, changing their lives, dealing with issues of petroleum, dealing with issues of premixed fuel, dealing with issues even of the close season. So I think that the fisheries sector is one sector which the president has taken very seriously. People were even suggesting that in the realignment of the ministries, people believed and thought that the fisheries ministry would have been added to the food and agriculture ministry, but it was left to remain. So it shows you how important the president and the NDC have taken the fishing sector. And don't forget, when you look at the electoral map, the coastal areas are areas where the NDC, of which President John Mahama belongs to, perform very well. And these coastal areas are where you have these fishing activities. Right. So this is just not a developmental thing. It's also a political decision. So now, who is well placed to deal with the concerns of these people? I said Emisata. Emiliata. I said Emisata because Emiliata at the time when Vice President Emisata was in power, worked closely with him at the Flagstaff House at the time. So she was a presidential staffer, but she belonged to the office of the Vice President. So it's, anytime I see her and what comes to mind is Vice President, former Vice President Emisata. God rest his soul. God bless his soul. So yes, it's a very important ministry for the NDC, both for developmental issues and both for political issues. The lady we are talking about is from Shama. She speaks Fante. She speaks Chi. She speaks Ga. She's able to connect with a lot of people. Now the issue is how she's going to implement the plans of the NDC and the government of John Dramani Mahama to affect positively the lives of our fisher folks. You see, the Ministry of Fisheries would not only deal with issues of people going to sea to go and catch fish and come. It goes way beyond that. What are you doing for the fishmongers? What kind of infrastructure are you putting in place for them when they catch their fish? Storage. What are you going to do? Even the sale of the fish. What are you doing to ensure that there's a smooth process from going to sea to catch fish, to store the fish, to sell the fish? What kind of development are you going to do within the fishing communities? Because you see, Nana, when you go to our fishing communities, it's an eyesore. They are one of the most undeveloped areas you would ever find in this country. Our fishing communities. You go there and there are issues of teenage pregnancy, issues of lack of jobs, issues of bad infrastructure, roads and other things. And you ask yourself that, what are we doing for these people who are constantly providing us with fish? How are we going to deal with how are we going to change their lives to ensure that they are also not, they don't remain the way they are, but are able to also grow and develop and make even fishing more attractive? Because now you go to other countries, you don't see the kind of fishing we see here. It's a whole huge industry. What kind of measures or companies are we going to bring here to ensure that our fish is not just being sold and caught and sold in the market? How are we going to even improve the packaging of how we sell our fish? You understand? So it's a very, very important sector. The choice of a minister is not bad, but once again, whether you can be able to implement whatever the plan is, and what's the willingness, your willingness to ensure that the right things are done.
Right.
So for me, Madam Emilia Arthur, I don't have an issue with her nomination. She's a very good person.
Best fit for the job?
She, best fit for the job, yes. Yes, not because she has expertise over there. Yes, because she's coming from a community or a fishing constituency, a fishing a region with which has the coast by it, and she has lived her lives within the coastal part of this country.
Right.
So she would understand much better the concerns of these people and how these things and their issues can be resolved. So yes, for me, we just hope that when she's made the minister, she will make decisions which would go to affect positively the people of the coast, of which I belong to, and of which I belong to,
right.
and make their lives better. Deal with the issues of this annual issue of issues of
the close season,
not close season, the fuel for
the premix
fuel.
Yeah.
How are you going to do it? You see, this premix fuel has been with us for years.
Yes, and it's been heavily politicized, although both sides will not admit it.
Exactly.
It's been heavily politicized.
How do you depoliticize this thing?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that this thing is done and run properly so that everybody within the fishing community can benefit, not just people within the NDC?
Yeah.
We've seen this. Even under the last NDC government, it happened. How is she going to change that? How is she going to ensure that all of the fisher folks are beneficiaries and benefit fairly from the distribution of premix? These are themes we'll be looking at.
It'll be interesting to hear her take on the close season as well and her approach to it, whether she's also going to go to the sea
and
lock it. But yeah, that's Emilia Arthur there, heading to the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. The last one among the second batch of nominations by the President, John Dramani Mahama, is a known name, a known face, the commander of the Green Army of the National Democratic Congress, the commander of the NDC's youth, George Opare-Addo, Esquire. Pablo. And of course, he is going to head a new ministry, if you ask me.
Yes.
I think this is a new ministry altogether.
Yes,
Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. Previously, we've had youth under the sports ministry, and so we've had the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Now he's heading to a new baby under the Mahama administration, the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. He's going into a new ministry, although new, but not so new, but in my own estimation, a number of agencies will be under this ministry, including the YEA and others.
Possible.
Yes.
Possible. I mean, it's possible that there's going to be a realignment to put the YEA under this.
Because if this is a youth development and empowerment ministry, then some of all these youth-oriented, youth-centered, youth-focused agencies and organizations and policies and initiatives will be realigned to fall within this ministry.
It's very possible that's what is going to happen. And you know, it comes to me as no surprise that George Opare-Addo has been nominated to head this particular ministry. You see, George Opare-Addo has been the youth organizer of the NDC for the last 8 years. He played a very critical role, a very influential role in mobilizing the youth to get the NDC to win the 2024 elections. You look at the campaign he ran. He opened an office for the youth at Jowulu, where they went to markets, visited markets, set up spaces for people to come. They sent the young people of their party across the country to go and mobilize and campaign for President John Dramani Mahama. It's no surprise that when he won president, or when he's been made president, or won the election as president, he's appointed George Opare-Addo to lead this particular youth ministry. George Opare-Addo has served in government before. He was DC for Ekwapim North.
Yes. Yes.
He was DCE
yes.
from Ekwapim North.
MC for Ekwapim
Municipal
This is 2009 to 2017.
Yes.
Quite a long period.
Yes, he's been MC
Wow.
for Ekwapim North. George Opariado has had business interest in so many things. And being made now to lead the youth ministry, I think that's a position he can perform well. Based on his previous position as a youth organizer. But then we should also know that being a youth organizer is not the same as a minister. Now, as a minister, as you said, you are going to get some of the agencies being realigned to fall under your ministry. What are you going to do to ensure that you are creating jobs? What are you going to do to ensure that you are developing the youth in a way that would benefit them? And you see, as we speak now, youth unemployment is on the rise. It's been, in fact, during the elections, it was one of the major issues for campaigning.
Right.
Now that you have a youth ministry, which is supposed to develop the youth, it also means that you have the Ministry of Youth, which is supposed to find ways and means of getting the young people of this country jobs. Getting them jobs, not just white-collar jobs, not just governmental jobs, but also empowering them to be able to start entrepreneurship, to begin their own businesses, find a way of ensuring that you have an economy which would support their businesses. Because truth be said, government will not be able to employ the large number of young people who are seeking jobs. And as we speak, more young people will be joining because every other year you have graduates. So you have a group of people, a large number of people who are already unemployed. You are going to get, in the next 4 years, another set of people who will be always constantly, annually joining the group of people who are going to seek jobs. What would be your plan? What would be your policy to ensure that these people, majority of these people, get something doing?
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So this is a difficult task for him.
Indeed.
It looks like, oh, youth ministry, there's really nothing to do. But this ministry is going to be one of the ministries which everybody will be looking at.
Yes.
You know, when it comes to the youth ministry and even comes to these agencies, we've heard a lot of scandals.
Exactly.
Within these youth agencies, how these agencies are run.
And a lot of outstanding debts, unpaid arrears and all that.
You have NAPCO people crying out
youth
to be
in
paid.
afforestation,
all those
youth
people.
in this, youth in that.
How are you going to realign all these youth job creation policies and programs to ensure that you are falling within the budget of government? You have the money to pay them, and also have the space to empower them to start businesses. For me, the most important thing for this particular ministry is liaising with, one, the finance ministry, the trade and industry ministry, which has agribusiness as part of it, the agriculture ministry, and the sports ministry to create jobs for our young people.
Exactly. And you know, he's taking over, he will be coming in at a point where, like I mentioned earlier, some agencies or organizations that I feel will now have to come under his purview, including the YEA Youth Employment Agency. It is NEIP.
National Entrepreneurship.
Good. Then there's even the National Youth Authority.
National Youth Authority would
National Youth Authority will also fall under him. And for an agency like the National Authority, like the National Youth Authority, they had some flagship programs, the resource centers that they were supposed to construct across the country. It will be interesting to know his thoughts on some of these things, and of course the various modules that were running.
For the resource centers, I think there will be some sort of realignment because you see, when you look at the new Ministry of Sports, it has recreation.
Right. Okay.
So probably the resource centers would remain under the Sports and Recreation Ministry to take care of it. But even with that, he still has a role as the youth minister to liaise with the sports minister to find ways of ensuring that these sports resource centers are put to work. They are completed, so that, you see, once they are completed, you find people will get jobs.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many jobs will be created, but people will get jobs. You have people engaging in so many things which would create jobs within that sector. So he still has a role in liaising with the sports ministry to ensure that these resource centers are completed and put to use. The health of our youth, if you look at it, now there are so many things happening in town. You see a lot of young people dying out of lifestyle diseases.
Right.
You see, we may say, oh, it's a health issue, but you see, there are a lot of young people suffering from these things. How are you going to deal with agencies and ministries who also have some supervisory role over these things to ensure that some of these things are reduced?
Right.
You understand? So for him, his job is going to be a very difficult job, especially also because of the large number of young people we have in the country. When you look at the GSS statistics data, the data they put out, it will indicate that majority of the people of this country are young people. So then he has a very difficult job in dealing with the young people, in creating jobs and ensuring that our young people are developed to a place where they can be on their own and also help the economy to grow.
President John Dramani Mahama has promised us a lean and effective government. He has promised 60 ministerial appointments. So far, he has made 25. Let's bring you a breakdown of this 25. We are seeing 12 ministers of states whose names have come up so far from the presidency. 13 regional ministers. Of course, these are nominations, and so they are designates. Out of this 25, we have 18 men so far, 7 women. Now, he promised to complete appointments to his cabinet within the first 14 days of his presidency. And so we have 5 more days for him to complete the list of his cabinet, so we know who is going where and who is serving where. So as mentioned, he promised 60 ministerial appointments. So far, he's made 25, out of which 12 are sector ministers or ministers of state, and 13 are regional ministers. Out of the 25 ministers designate, we have 18 men, 7 women. Out of the 14 days promised us, we have 5 more days to go. So which ministries or which ministerial nominations have been made so far? Dr. Dominic Ayene to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General's Department, Dr. Cassiola Toforsen to Finance, John Jinapo, Energy and Green Transition. We have Gender, Children and Social Protection, which you see Namumu Latte going there. Roads governs Kwame Abuja. Education Haruna Idrusu. Local Government Ahmed Ibrahim. Tourism, you have Abla Jifa Gomashi. Fisheries, Emilia Arthur. Youth Development, you have Pablo, that's George Opare Ado. Trade, you have the Honorable Elizabeth Ejare going there. Food and Agriculture, we'll have Eriko Poku. And then we can go and look at the regional ministers. So far, nominations have come for Central, Greater Accra, Northern, Western, Western North, Uti, Volta, Ashanti, Savannah, Northeast, Upper East, and of course we have Ahafo. So outstanding for the regional, we have 3 more regions to go. That will be Bono East and Upper West. Hopefully the president completes the nominations within the 5 days that he has left out of the 14 days within which he promised to name his cabinet, and then the appointments committee can proceed with its vetting. So far, we know that out of the 25 nominations, 3 have been vetted. We await the report of the committee. Final words from you, Fred.
Yes, you realize that the entire front bench of the majority leadership have now been appointed to ministerial positions. So, apart from Comfordoyo Gansa,
Gansa.
Comfordoyo Gansa, who is the second deputy whip. all of them have gone. So once you are creating space in the executive, you are creating space in the parliamentary
There's
space.
also Amabua outstanding, deputy majority
there's
leader.
also Amabua
deputy majority leader.
Deputy majority leader.
All right.
But before we go, somebody just gave us the name of Jifa Gomashi, the traditional name she has. She has Mama Dramado.
Mama Dramado.
Dramado.
We'll get there. We'll get there eventually. But thank you so much, Fred Tete Jabado. My name is Nanatu Boateng, and we've been looking at the ministerial nominees as communicated by the Communications Department of the Presidency. This is Channel 1 Television. Stay with us. We have more updates for you in our subsequent